Okay, in lesson 24, we're working on dividing with decimals. You're going to find we're going to use the same strategies as we're in the standard algorithm that we're using with whole. Okay, we're going to focus on the standard algorithm. So, if we're going to use the standard algorithm, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the problem up to where I have 2 4/10 divided by 8, and I'm going to put a decimal up here exactly in the same place that I had my dividend. Then I go 8 can go into 2 0 times, but 8 can go in 24 3 times. And I know 3 times 8 is 24, and it shows we have 0 remainder. To check it, I can do 8 times 3/10, and I know that's 24, and I know I have one place value, the tenths, so I have to put 1 back in. So I end up with 2.4. On the next one, on this one I have 2 4/10, but this time I'm dividing by 80. So I'm going to put the decimal in the same place as the answer. I know 80 cannot go into 2, 80 cannot go into 24, but I can put a 0 here. And I know 80 can go into 240. If I skip counted by 80, it'd be 80, and 80 be 160, 80 would be 240. So I know it could go in at 3 times. 3 times 80 would be 240. So we know it would be 3/100. On our next one, I have 14 6/10 divided by 2, and I know 2 cannot go into 1, but 2 can go into 14 ones 7 times. 2 times 7 would be 14. 0. And I need to put the decimal point in there. I usually put that in there before I start the problem, but I forgot. Now I'm going to bring down the 6. 2 will go into 6 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6 with 0 remaining. Let's go ahead and multiply it out. Now I'm just going to act like the decimal's not there, and I'll multiply it out. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 7 is 14. Now I estimated 7 times 2 would be 14, so the reasonable place to put the decimal would be right there. On the last one on this page, we have 14 6/10 divided by 20. Well, I know that 20 cannot go into 14, but 20 can go into 146. But if I go 20 and 20, that's going to give me 40. If I double that again, that'd be 80. And if I did another 20, that'd be 100. And I could do another 20, it'd be 120. And another 20 would be 140. If I counted them up, I would see that would be 7 times. But I can also see that 2 would go into 14 7 times. So 20 would go into 140 7 times. So 7 times 20 is 140. And that'll leave a remainder 6. We bring down our 0. And I know 20 can go into 60 3 times. 3 times 20 is 60 with a remainder of 0. To do our check, I'm going to come over here. We have 0.73, and we're going to multiply that by 20. We have a 0. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 7 is 14. And I know this is close to 1, so 1 times 20 would be 20, so I know to be reasonable it has to be 8. If we go to standard algorithm again, we have 0.8 divided by 4. It's actually 0.8, so I'm going to go ahead and put the decimal in here. I know 4 cannot go into 0, but 4 can go in 8 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8 with 0 remainder. And if we multiply it out, 0.2 times 4, we get 8 with 1 place value, and we have 8/10. Our next one, we have 56/100 divided by 7. 7 to go in 0 times. We got our place value, a decimal place. 7 will go into 5 0 times, but 7 will go into 56 8 times. 8 times 7 is 56, and the remainder 0. And we can check that by going 0.08 times 7. We know 8 times 7 is 56. And I can see there was 2 decimal points. That brings us back to 56 hundredths. Our last one on this page, 0 and 56 divided by 7. Put our decimal point in our answer. 7 goes in 0 0 times. 7 goes into 5 0 times. 7 goes into 56 8 times. 8 times 7 is 56 with 0 remainder. To check it, we're going to multiply. 8 times 7 is 56, and we can see we have 1, 2 place values, so 56 hundredths. Now I didn't tell you how to do number 2, but in case you did, let's go ahead and try it. Let's say I have 65.6. We're dividing that by 8. 8 cannot go into 6, but 8 can go in 65. I know 8 times 8 is 64, so I know we're going 8 times. We bring down our 6, and 8 will go into 16 2 times. 16 is 0. So we know this one here would be 8.2. Our next one, let's try using our powers of 10 on this, okay? And what they're doing here, they're saying that 2 and 5/10 divided by 50 equals 5 hundredths. Well, if 2 and 5/10 divided by 50 equals 5 hundredths, and this is 10 times more that I'm dividing by, that means 2 and 5/10 divided by 5 should be 5/10. And let's multiply that out and see if that works. 2 and 5/10 times 5/10. Excuse me, I'm sorry. 5 times 5/10. That gives us 25 with one placeholder, 2 and 5/10. So it works. So this one here, we can see that if divided by 40 is 48 hundredths, so dividing by 4 should be 4.8 because it's 10 times less. And let's check that. 4.8 times 4. 4 times 8 is 32. 4 times 4 is 16, and 3 is 19. And we can see we have one place value put in there. Now, if you're having a hard time seeing it, let's go ahead and expand this out. Because 19.2 divided by 40 equals 0.48. What they're doing here is 19.2 divided by 4 divided by 10 equals 0.48. So you can see the difference between the two is just divided by 10. So it's just moving the place value one place value, the decimal one place value. So on this one here, we can see the difference between here and here is 10. So this one we're going from a smaller to a larger number. So I can see that it's going to be getting smaller on this point. So it'll be 0.66. Because if I go 39.6 divided by 6 would equal 6.6, then I'm dividing by 10 also, which would end up being 0.66. Check it. Let's go ahead and do 66 times 60. That'd be 0. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 6 is 36. 3 is 39. And I have two place values, 39.6, so it checks. Question 4. 2.1 liters of coffee were equally distributed to 30 cups. How many milliliters of coffee were in each cup? Well, first off, let's just find out how much are in each cup. So, as you can see, I have a tape diagram, and it says there's a total of 2.1 liters, and it says that there are 30 cups. And it wants to know how much is in each cup. And we can see we're going to be doing 2.1 divided by 30 to solve for that. So 2.1 divided by 30. So we're going to go 30 cannot go into 2, and I'm going to put my decimal place in here first. 30 cannot go into 21, so I'm going to put a 0 in there. 30 goes into 210. And if I'm just looking at my different place values, actually my basic facts, I know 21 divided by 3 would be 7. So 210 divided by 30 should be 7 also. And 7 times 30 would be 210, be 0. So we're saying this is 0.07 liters per cup. But the question is saying how many milliliters. Well, this is where it's best to remember a saying, King Henry doesn't usually drink chocolate milk. We know this is millimeter, centimeter, and, well, this here would be milliliters, centiliter, and liter here. So I'm at liter, so I'm going to put my decimal point right here. It says we want to know how many milliliters are in each. So I'm going to draw my arrow in the direction it's going to be going, and I can see from liter it's going to be 1, 2, 3 place values it's going to be moving to the right. So if I have 0.07 liters and I'm moving 3 place values to the right, 1, 2, 3. So each one would get 70 milliliters.